Hello everybody and welcome to the webinar How to Work with Sub-Assemblies in VPS and VAPS. My name is Martin Karlovic. I'm CEO and co-owner of NETRONIC software here from Germany, and I hope that you are all healthy and safe in these days in which we are in. Before we start, a couple of things. So we as NETRONIC are fully operational from home offices. So we told all our employees to work from home starting this week. And we invested last year a lot in processes, in tools and infrastructure to kind of facilitate this. We had a different use case in mind when we did so, but now we are kind of in the lucky situation, I would say, that we can continue to provide all our services and all our processes to you, our customers and partners. So even if we are not in the office, we are in full swing, and so we decided also to carry on with giving these webinars. And as we all sense that kind of working remotely and communicating remotely and also running events remotely may become even more important in the upcoming weeks, I really would like to endorse you to challenge us with suggested webinar topics. So if you have an idea what we should cover maybe in the next webinar, on the webinar maybe in 2 weeks from now, and our webinar in 3 weeks from now, then please send me an email with your ideas for upcoming webinars, or put them just the idea for a webinar topic, put it into the chat pane so that I can review it with the team afterwards and then prepare accordingly. So talking about the chat pane, you are all on mute, and this is as always not because I'm not interested in what you have to say, but this is just to avoid some background noise. And I actually had this morning when I did a team call with our development team. We were a couple of people, and everybody was working from home, and then we had kids running in and kind of a dog making noise, and some people in the neighbor apartment making noise. So just in order to avoid these unwanted background noise, we have you all on mute, but you can ask a question using the chat pane or suggest a topic for an upcoming webinar. In the chat pane, I will definitely review this, and if there's a question, I will answer it either right away. Sometimes when I'm doing demos, I don't see the sign that there is a question, so then I kindly ask you to wait until the end of my demo, and then I will definitely give an answer. And at the end of the call, I will review if there are any questions left, and this is the latest point of time for me to answer the question. As always, we record the session and will make it available on our website. I would bet tomorrow, latest on Friday. And so with this, let's actually look at what's going to happen in the next 50 to 60 minutes. So first of all, as this is, as the title said, we do the look at sub-assemblies in VPS and VAPS. I want to give you a quick recap about what VPS is and what VAPS is, and also what the difference is, because this is the question I keep on hearing. So we already have somebody writing a blog post on it, and I actually plan also to write an ebook on this. But so as we have two products to help with production scheduling, I just wanted to kind of quickly highlight what the difference is before we then look at sub-assemblies in Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. And I will start this with differentiating actually the two cases that you as a customer or that your customers have in order to build and work with sub-assemblies. Okay, and then once we laid the kind of the Business Central foundation, we will then drill down into the visual scheduling, or the visual part of it first, and then the scheduling part. So I will first look at some visualization and scheduling basics, and I will do this via the VPS, the Visual Production Scheduler. And then to conclude the webinar, I will also look at further scheduling options that we actually have in the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler. So this is what I'm trying to achieve in the next couple of minutes. And as said, if you have questions, just let me know. With this, let's quickly recap what the VAPS and the VPS are and what differentiates them. So overall, we have 4 products, 4 extensions for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. We also have the VSS for NAV, but when we look at Business Central and at Business Central, kind of the web client, the modern client, then there are 4 extensions. One are more tied in with jobs and resources, so I won't touch them today, but there will be webinars in a couple of weeks where we'll also look at those again. When it comes to production and to production scheduling, we have 2 products, the Visual Production Scheduler, VPS, and the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler, VAPS. The VPS is available for Business Central and NAV, and we have it in AppSource. It is the product that we that actually marked the starting point for us as NETRONIC to become an active player in this Navision and Business Central community. So this was the very first product that we launched for Dynamics NAV back in 2013. So this is now kind of 7 years ago, almost by day 7 years ago. It integrates with the manufacturing module and is the drag and drop front end to standard Business Central manufacturing. This is a good product if your customers are, or if you're a small manufacturer, or if you have new clients that in the past did their scheduling on a whiteboard or with Excel. So clients that you now start to kind of accompany on their way to digitize all their processes. And then when it comes to digitizing scheduling, then this is a really good tool because it helps to understand the power and also the limitation of Business Central manufacturing. But if you come from a kind of a non-digital world into a digital world, so if you come from Excel or if you come from whiteboard and then you start working with Business Central manufacturing, if you start to define BOMs, production BOMs, items, routings, and all of this, then this is already a very big step to take. And if you do this kind of visually supported, then this process definitely goes easier, goes faster, and your customers get a quicker grip and handle on what scheduling is and how this works. If you then come to a point where a pure drag and drop front end to what you get out of the box from Business Central is no longer enough, then you can grow into or go for the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler. The Visual Advanced Production Scheduler is only available or solely available for Business Central. So we have no plans to make it available for NAV because internally we kind of have a quite strong event-driven architecture, and we are making big use of the events framework that came with Business Central, and we thought it makes no sense actually to rebuild this for NAV just to integrate the product with NAV. So the VPS is the product for all versions, and the VAPS is kind of the product for the current and the future versions. The VAPS is not yet in AppSource, but we made the version AppSource ready and submitted it to Microsoft last week for AppSource approval. We don't know if their processes there are impacted by the overall virus crisis or not, but typically it takes them up to 7 working days to kind of validate a solution that you submit to AppSource. So I would expect that we get feedback from them, say by Tuesday next week, if all goes as planned. And then if we did a good job, the product should be in AppSource next week. If we didn't do a good job, then we'd have to go for another run, and then it will take another couple of days. But we are definitely on the final spurt there. Also, the VAPS integrates with the manufacturing module, but it enhances the manufacturing module by functions that we feel are missing, especially for larger manufacturers that have a higher number of jobs, for larger manufacturers that, for example, might use to work with a product called Planner One in the past, which existed for NAV, but does not exist for Business Central, or for Business Central customers who use different forms of scheduling software before. So if you're a customer, or if you have a customer who used to work with Epicor or SysPro before, and now you bring them over, you come over to Business Central, then congratulations for this decision. And then if you then recognize that maybe a system like Epicor had some capabilities that you miss in Business Central, then the VAPS definitely closes this loop and brings you advanced visual scheduling capabilities with finite capacity scheduling as integrated part of Business Central. So what's the difference? As said, and the VPS integrates with the standard manufacturing model, and it does not change it. Whereas with the VAPS, we actually make changes to the manufacturing model. We enhance it by functionality that is missing. So the VPS is the pure drag and the pure front end, the visual front end to make manual drag and drop changes. It overloads machine centers, whereas the VAPS also is drag and drop scheduling, but it is supported by a finite capacity scheduler so that we make sure that your machine centers never ever are overloaded. Plus, with the VAPS, we give you some what we call semi-automatic scheduling tools. So we build in a couple of tools that make your and that are made for certain scheduling scenarios, so that in certain cases you can say, okay, now I want to achieve this, and I want to achieve this in a most efficient way. And then we give you a tool for this, for example, to add a new production order to the schedule without impacting the schedule, or in order to kind of accelerate a production order in order to get it done as fast as possible without creating a machine overload, but maybe with pushing out some other production orders. So we build tools for this, and with every version that we ship, we're going to build new version. Both products can get installed quite rapidly because they are pure extensions. For none of the products do you require any kind of separate database or a different database server or another kind of technology infrastructure. So they are vanilla extensions that you just install, and once the VAPS is an app store, you can just get it from app source and get it running there like any other app. So this should be really easy. With the VPS, there is almost no customization, no setup time. So you just install it and it's running because it integrates with the standard, and it kind of visualizes what you have in the standard product. Whereas with the VAPS, you definitively need to do some setups. You need to work on some settings because we enhance Business Central, and with enhancing Business Central, we also add new requirements or new options to provide additional master data. And of course, you need to define these master data and bring in these new master data like alternative machine centers. So Business Central does not know about alternative machine centers. And if they exist, you need to tell the system, hey, here are my alternative machine centers. So there are definitely some setup requirements. And with this, there are also higher training requirements to get going with the VAPS than there is with the VPS. So when we say the VAPS enhances Business Central and hence provides additional functionality, then what are the enhancements? So first of all, the VAPS comes with a finite capacity scheduler. We provide you with scheduling tools to support certain scheduling tasks. We allow you to define alternative machine centers, including their production coefficients. We provide information about material availability while scheduling. With the VAPS, you can build and maintain various production schedule simulations. You can pin and freeze operations, and there are different color schemes to support different scheduling aspects. So there are a lot of enhancement, and you see the little dots. There are some more enhancements, but I don't want to drill down into them. And we are also in the process of actually making this list even longer. And I just wanted to do this as a quick recap because later on in the demo, we will look at both VPS and VAPS. And I think it makes sense from time to time to kind of make yourself again familiar with these differences so that you can better put into perspective what you are seeing. But now let's talk about sub-assemblies. And first of all, before we look at our product, I actually would look at Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central as an ISV building extensions and add-ins see it. And when we looked at this, we actually saw two different cases of how to work with sub-assemblies. And to my point of view, also these cases kind of have a different, let's say, business background. So the first case is the real pure make to order case. So if everything you or your customer builds is customer specific, then Business Central or Navision provide a solution to this. So if your final product is customer specific, but also every sub-assembly that you build and that becomes part of the final product is customer specific. So you do nothing, you produce nothing on stock. Everything you do is customer specific. Then you can set up Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central in a way that exactly this really very vanilla make to order approach is appropriately reflected. So you set up each, or you bring in each sub-assembly that you have, you make it part of, I call it the production BOM of the master product. So if you finish a certain article, then, or a certain item, if you produce a certain item, then make sure that every sub-assembly you need is kind of part of the production BOM of this master product. And we look at this in Business Central in a couple of minutes. And then most likely all of the sub-assemblies that you do will have their own routing, because you produce these components on your own, and you can produce these components as part of a certain product. And then also you need to set up each of these sub-assembly items and the master product as make to order on the item card. The implication is you then can create one production order for the master product, and then this production order will actually contain a production order line for every sub-assembly. So you will get a production order with multiple production order lines, and each production order line then is to make each sub-assembly that you have. And actually, if you build them up in an idented way, so if you build them up that a sub-assembly requires a sub-assembly, then you will also see these dependency in the production order line. And behind the scene, Dynamics 365 Business Central uses reservation and reservation entries to handle this. So it automatically creates reservation from one production order line to the other if they are within one production order. And you can do this for planned, firm planned, and released production orders. So in my case, in my example that we look at, I just have a master product, and this is a customized bike. You know, like always, when you do, when you're in Kronos database, you build bikes. And then for my very custom bike that I build from time to time, which I never build on stock, which I always build to produce to order, I need a front wheel and a back wheel. And in order to produce a front wheel, I need a front hub. And in order to build a back wheel, I need a back hub. And all of this, they are all custom. They are always different for every custom. And then I need a frame to actually start building the front up and the backup. And this is a little bit artificial, but it shows you the process. And you saw how I spoke about it. I said, I built this, so I need this and this. In order to build this, I need that. In order to build this, I need that. And in order to build those two, I need this. And this is exactly, if you build it, how your production order will look like, right? And how it will look like in the VPS. You first need to build a frame, then you can build the front up and the back up. And when they are done, when the front up is done, you start with the front wheel. When the back up is done, you start with the back wheel, and then you do the custom bike. So let's have a look how this is first set up in Business Central. And most likely I will have to refresh So I'm still presenting on Business Central 14. I need to eventually update to Business Central 15. But our products run on both version 14 and 15. So I have actually built an example case for this. So let's start with my items. And here is my item 1001. This is my custom bicycle. And my custom bicycle has been set up as make to order. It has its own routing and it has the own production bomb. So let's have a look at how this production was actually the bike's production bomb. So let's see how this production bomb is built. Manage view. So I see that among others, I need a front wheel and a back wheel, and I need some other items, but I don't produce them, I just buy them. Okay, so I build a front wheel, I build a back wheel, and the rest is something that I just buy. So let's look at the front wheel and the back wheel, and I will now only look at the front wheel. So we saw that for the bicycle, I need a front wheel. The front wheel is a separate item here. It's item 1100. And I define the front wheel again as make to order. So I make this on order, okay? And again, I have an own production bomb and an own routing for it. So now let's look at the front wheels bomb. And there we will see actually that it includes the front hub. And then if I drill down further, then we will see that the front hub will need the frame. So this is how I set this up. I did the same on the back wheel with the back hub, and then on the back hub with the frame. So I made the respective parts that I produce. I made this part of the production bomb of the next level product. So kind of in the reverse order. So I made the front wheel and the back wheel part of the custom bicycles production bomb, and then I made the front hub part of the front wheels production bomb, and so on and so forth. And every time when this is something that I produce, I put make to order on the item card. So now, as we said, this is actually something that can be used on plan production orders, as on firm plan production orders, as on release production orders. I have one example here, but let's just create a new production order for the sake of creating it. And we use the item 110, so our custom bicycle. Let's say let's produce 100, and I just do it. We won't see it afterwards. We'll see the other one, but let's do it, and that we need this by whatever 1st of October 2020. And then I say refresh production order. And now you see actually that within this one production order, we get actually a bunch of production order lines, and each of these production order lines has its own routing line. So for the end, let's say the end assembly of the custom bicycle, when I have all the components in place, you see I just have general assembly on the work center, then it goes to assembly station 1 and 2, and then it will be quality controlled, and off it goes. Whereas in order to produce the front wheels, I have my own routing. So this entire structure of all, so it starts again on assembly, then it's drilling, milling, turning, and again on assembly. So every of these production order lines has its own routings. And you see actually that there's a dependency. I need to do the frame first before I can do the backup and the front hub. And when those are done, I can do the back wheel and the front wheel. And when those are done, I can do the custom bicycle. So this is because I set it up as a complete make-to-order production. Everything here is bespoke, everything is on order, and we have multiple production order lines that now are part of this one production order. They are all dependent of each other, and everything here is just made for this particular order. There is nothing in between that I produce for stock, and so this is all handled within one production order. Okay, so this is the one case. So now let's go back to the second case, where we kind of have a combination of make to order and make to stock. So and this could be that if you have a final product that is customer specific, but in order to produce this final product, you need some sub-assemblies that you also produce on your own, but actually some of the sub-assemblies are can be used for different types of final product. So actually, for example, if you produce 10 of this product A, then it can make sense that you produce 20 of a sub-assembly and then use 10 of those 20 for this product and put 10 of those sub-assemblies on stock and have them available for another product that you're going to build, or for a later order that you get for the same from the same customer for the same product. So if you have your final product custom specific, but if some of the sub-assemblies that you build, if they can be used in a repetitive manner, and if they are not 100% customer specific, then you can actually set up Business Central in a different way than I showed you before. So again, the sub-assemblies that you have must be part of the master products production BOM. If you build the stuff, they need their own routing, but you set both the sub-assembly and the master product, you set them up as make to stock, so that you don't have this automatism that the production order lines within the production order are automatically populated. So this also means you need to create production order for the master product and one production order for each sub-assembly product. And then, like I literally said this before, you need to make a reservation of the sub-assemblies of the quantity for the master product. So if you build 20 of these first and need 10 of them later for that product, you actually need to tell the system, and this is, you need to tell Navision or Business Central that, hey, of those 20, 10 will be needed for this, and this is that you need to make a reservation. And you can only do this for firm planned production orders and for release production orders. So you cannot make reservations on planned production orders. This is a difference between these both cases, so just that you don't get confused about this. So, and my example is, I have a master product that I'm going to produce, and I call this item 3000. I was kind of sick of bicycle examples, but I couldn't think of something concrete, so I made this a little bit abstract, and for this master product I need item 2100 and 2200. So this is a more simplistic case, and maybe sometimes also the case that I just do item 3000 and I will only need item 2100. So let's go again to Business Central and let's have a look how to set this up. So again, let's start from the items, and typing is always not working when doing demos. Anyway, so let's go to item 3000. This is kind of my master product. Item 3000, I set this actually up as make to order, sorry for that, and then it has its own production BOM. And if we go there, we see that for this item, we just need item 2100 and item 2201 per each, so it's pretty simple. So then let's look at one of those other items that are needed. And here they are, again, I make them also make to order, not sure why, should we make to stock? Anyway, and have an own routing for it, have no own production BOM for it. So now let's actually look, and we said that we can make these reservations on the firm plan production order. So let's build a firm plan production order where we just link 2 of them. And so maybe I have 3 of them, but let's maybe we create quickly 2 new ones. So maybe we just say we create something of item 2100, and maybe we create 100, and they will be ready, let's say on the 5th of February. And let's say in the VAPS, we want to see them in red. Okay, so then let's refresh the production order so that we get this in the schedule. And then I say, okay, at a later point of time, I'm doing my finished product. So let's also create my item 3000. And I do 10. I would do them at my end of February. Let's say also in red. And then I refresh the production order so that I have both of them in the system. And this is now a production order 10, 10, 13. And now I can actually go to this one that I just created, where I said, okay, I do these 100 units of those, and from here I want to make a reservation, and I have this firm plan production order here, and I will reserve of those that I'm producing. I'm reserving actually from that current line. I will reserve 10 for this firm plan production order line that I have here. So now I made of this 100, I made a reservation for that other line here. Okay. So now that we set this up, the next question is, how does this look like in the visual tools that we built? So let me go back to Business Central and let's start with the VPS. And let me say show all. And let me first focus on the planned production order where I have only one, and let's kind of get rid of the firm plan release production. I have only one firm plan, one planned production order. This is production order 10, 10, 29, 25. Let's look at this. This is actually the one that I had in before that I didn't create in this meeting, because in the meeting this was for 2020, so this does not show up here where my work date is kind of January 21. But I see it's the same as we did before. I need a certain quantity and I need to do the frame first, then the back wheel front hub, the back wheel, front wheel, and then the touring bicycle. So it is one production order with one due date. So this is the first line that we see here. This is for my custom bike, and we start the production here, we finish it here, and this is my due date. And then when I expand this, like if I go from the production order header into the production order lines, I now see these production order lines. Starting from here, this is the frame. When the frame is done, I can do the back hub and the front hub. When the front hub is done, the front wheel can be done. When the back hub is done, the back wheel can be done. And when the wheels are done, I can do the final assembly like the touring bicycle. And each of this production order line, so let's go back to the production order. Each of this production order lines, as we saw before, has its own routing. So I can drill down like I drilled into the routing here. I can also drill into the routing here. And now I see, okay, this is my routing, and then this is the routing for that part. And when both of them, or when all of them that are needed, when they are expanded, then I was expecting to see the dependency, and I'm not sure why this is not working now. Let's see, maybe I need to have all of them expanded. No, now this is the typical thing when you do demos. Let me quickly switch the view. Maybe I can show it to you from here. No, for some reason, all these lines are broken. And this is not what I wanted to show you. So let me quickly go back to Business Central, and actually something broke between preparing this demo and giving this demo. And you see that now. I'm not sure why. So something broke between testing this demo and giving this demo. Now that this is, I refreshed it. I reiterated the reservations on all these production order lines within this production order, and now you see that actually we have different types, and this is what I wanted to refer to. We have different types of visualizing dependencies. We have the dependencies between the production order routing lines that come from the routings. These are the straight arrows, and we have this dotted lines, and they are between the production order lines. And this is if from one production order line there is a reservation to another, then we show it like this. And so now if actually here this is my front wheel production, if the front wheel production is delayed, and for some reason I need to move this out, maybe the last step here, only then actually takes too long, but we are working on the performance of the product here as well. And I'm sorry for this. And now you see that the dependent operations for the next production order line, they have been moved as well, and they are still in range. So I'm not violating the overall due date, but you see that I'm finishing here later than I initially planned. And we have the same kind of display of the links here in this capacity view. So whenever it is a straight link, this comes from the routing lines, and if this is dotted, then this is the link between the production order lines of those production orders that are linked together via reservations. So let's look at the firm plan production order that we just created, and this was we made the reservation from production order 12 to production order 13. So let's look at the light, at the dark blue, and I think they are. Let's see where I have them. There is 12. And here we also see, like, this is my first production order. This is the sub-assembly that I have. And then I made the reservation from here, from this sub-assembly. This is item 2100. I made the reservation from here to kind of the final assembly work from here, which is going to happen here, which is my item 3000. And again, if for some reason this is, and you see the example that we did is a little bit weird because we have this big overlap here. So now actually I have flexibility here to move this out a bit so that the sub-assembly gets closer, the production of the sub-assembly gets closer to the production of the final product here. So this is how this looks like in the VPS. So now we know about the differentiation between links between routing lines and links between between production order lines made by reservations. So now let's go back or go to the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler, or maybe let me quickly check and just switch slides because now the next thing was looking at the VAPS, but I see that there are questions. So the question is, in case 2 mixed, if I have the MTS and MTO items set correctly, if I create FPOs from the planning worksheet, it will create automatically the reservations, correct? Yes, this is correct. So it will then create the reservations, and once the reservations are created, they will be shown as I just showed you in the VPS, and they will be also shown like I will show you now, hopefully in the VAPS. So let's go to the VAPS, and very quickly with the VAPS, you don't access the production order directly as we did with the VPS, but what you need to do first is you need to create a simulation. And now I only want to look at production orders with status firm, planned, and higher. Let's start with looking by production order status, and let's look at a certain time frame. So now I'm creating a simulation, which means I created a copy of my production order data, and based on this copy, based on this simulation, I now built my schedule. And when I'm happy with this, I can publish this back to Business Central. So now when you are working with the VAPS, we add a standby resource to every work and every machine center. The standby resource is the virtual resource, which tells me as the planner what are the production orders that I didn't add to the schedule so far. So the standby kind of is my to-do list, and I see now, because I started this by production order status, I see the dark blue as before as the firm planned, and I see the orange as the released. So let's start with this production order 10-10-12 that we just looked at with this the sub-assembly where I need to cut it, then I need to drill it, and I need to mill it, and then the final product item 3000, which is on the assembly line. So I can now say on a right mouse click, for example, apply standard routing. So I can add this to my schedule and applying the standard routing. And then everything here is put to the schedule, and also the kind of the dependent production of the final product is already put to the schedule. And we see actually that we are getting a little bit late here because we had production orders already on milling 1 that is used here. So we start here quite soon, but then already the machine drilling 1 that I need is busy. So with the VAPS, actually we can undo it and we can apply an alternative strategy. So I can also say apply to the schedule and use all the alternatives resources that I defined. So as I said, you can enhance the VAPS in a way that you also can define alternative machine centers. And so if I do this, then this is again applied to the entire, and I think I made a definition mistake because now it went from cutting to drilling. So there's a definition mistake, but it now scheduled it and it uses alternatives machines, especially here in milling. So it no longer put it to milling 1, but put it in milling 2, and then we are able to finish it earlier. Okay, so this is the one thing that when you work with assemblies and sub-assemblies, we always take into account the entire chain of operations. So when production orders are linked through the reservations, and now if for some reason this one here needs to get pushed out, then you see everything else here is pushed out as well. So we are taking into account the overall linked operations, either if they are linked through production order routing lines or if they are linked through reservations. So we take this into account. So now the next thing is actually, and you see I have a bunch of operations that I need to add to the schedule, and I can also see already from one glance here in drilling, they are all on my standby resource, and I have stacked 5 on top of each other. I have already stuff here in the schedule, and so now I know that I won't be able to do all of them in this given time frame. So now the question is, which production order to add to the schedule first? And then let's remember, in my case too, already we said that sometimes we can produce item 2100 or 2200 as part of an make to order production order, but sometimes we also just can produce them for their own sake as a stock order. So actually what I did when I created my production orders, and now let's go back to the production orders. You see here my production order 101019. I typed in color in the VAPS black, whereas with, let's take another one. I think this one here with this 21, I typed in green. So when I created my production orders, I actually, for myself, made a differentiation on how I would like to see these production orders in the VAPS when I switch the coloring from production order status to production order color. So now I go to the production order specific colors, and then you will see with some of them, they actually change colors. And what I meant to do is that I said, okay, everything that is for a bespoke customer, so everything that is make to order gets a certain color, and maybe red is my most important color, and then blue is another customer that I have, and green is also a customer order that I need to fulfill. So maybe now I would kind of go and say I apply this to the bring this to the schedule as next, and then also I need to take care for this one because this is also custom order. So I want to reuse my resources and my machines for the customer orders first. So this is all the colored ones, and then in my color language that I defined for myself, I said whenever this is just a pure stock order, then I definitively have some time. And even if this is a sub-assembly, if I just produce this on stock so that I have it just in case I need it, then I have higher flexibility. So whenever it is a stock order, I just said, okay, show me the production order in black, right? So show me the production order in black in the VAPS. And so now that I have kind of loaded my schedule with the customer orders, now I can say, okay, now let's add the stock orders to the schedule wherever I have space and wherever it makes sense, and maybe it may apply alternative routing. So then, sorry, there's a mistake in the way of how I set this up. Let's apply the standard routing so that it goes to cutting. But then now you see that actually I'm adding the stock orders after I have the customer orders in the schedule, and this means the customer orders stay where they were. And now with these apply standard routing or apply alternative routing, I'm just looking for gaps in my schedule based on the schedule being loaded by customer orders. And now I actually can say, okay, I want to move this forward. So let's see, this blue one here only can start after this could also this starts this, so maybe I can accelerate this a bit, or at least this one here now is something I want to accelerate, and I want to push out the black one because the black one is a stock order, don't need to happen that soon, and so I could squeeze this in and push the others out, and then maybe I move this forward and have it happen earlier than the black one. So then with this, I'm not only scheduling sub-assemblies, but now if I have kind of this hybrid mode between stock orders and customer orders, I clearly see my customer orders because I gave them a dedicated color, and I clearly see my stock orders, which are all in black. And my recommendation would be manage and schedule your customer orders first, and then squeeze in the stock orders when there are free when there is free capacity and you can use the tools that we are given. And with this, I want to see if you have any questions, because this was kind of the topics that I want to run through. There's another question coming. What happens when I want to publish a production order to a later date than the source, in quotes, sales order line, for example? When there's a standard reservation, we get an error because the due date on a production order line cannot be later than the source date. What will be happen there? Well, what happens is, okay, good question. Let me go back again. So let's go back here and let's take this one where we made the reservation, or let's take the red one. Okay, we made the reservation, I think, from here to here. And now I'm moving the end of one sub-assembly after that one here. So, and I think here you can do it. And so now let's, I did this, and now I published the simulation. And then this works. So what is, and now let's do the different case. Let's create a new simulation, look at the plan again. I think pushing it to the right makes no issue, but maybe you was referring to the opposite case where let me quickly change the color scheme. And let me get one where, Okay, thing is that as it looks like when I publish, I lose the, no. So now here, I think the case is that you were referring to when I move this, where I have the reservation from here to here. If I would like to have this happen earlier, if I move it to here, then you see you won't be allowed to do so. So I cannot move it to here because from the reservation we know this is the earliest day that I can start. So you can move this to the right, and then we take into account that this will be ready later. You can finish this, or you can start this later, but if I move this to the left, and by this trying to kind of violate the reservation, the VAPS does not allow me, but it moves it back to here so that we take into account this reservation that has been made. Okay, so I hope that this answers the question. The next question is, and there are more questions coming, so thank you for that. Next question is, I notice in VPS anyway, you can only drag and drop reschedule in production order view, but not in capacity view. Is this right? So no, this is not right. Let me go back to the VPS. Sorry, wrong button. Let me go back to the VPS and go back to the VPS. Show me all. And maybe I need to switch to a different company soon to show you a couple of things where maybe it didn't work. So now I have this full picture here, and I could change, as we saw it before, stuff from here. Like I can move this that way, and then because we have a dependency here, this will move as well. Anyway, as we saw it before, but also when I, let's do it from here, show operation capacity view, I switch to the capacity view, I see it here. Now if I try to move, this does not work because this is still collapsed on the work center. But if I click here, then I see the machine centers in drilling. So this was the work center. If it's like this, you're looking at the work center. If I click it like this, we see the machine centers. And now I can of course move this, or I could move this from drilling 1 to drilling 2 as well and say, okay, let's start later. So you can move stuff also in the capacity view, but you need to make sure that you have expanded this all here so that you really look at your work centers. The other thing when you cannot move stuff, and I can also show it to you quickly. Let me save this first. Now I go to this first operation here, and I saw that there are more questions, but let me answer one after the other. So now I do some posting here, and let's say I have 60 pieces, and on the first step, maybe 30 are done. The rest is not yet done. So now what I'm doing, I post, let's say the first step is 50% done. So now let's reload the data. And we're getting a little bit off topic, but I'm glad that you asked this so that I could show you this one here. And now we actually see there is this gray underscore which spans 50% of the net working time. And now that this is started, you cannot move it direct. So you could move it, but then you get an error message, hey, this is started, do you want to move it anyway? And I would better say no, because if it started, then it has to start and it should not get moved. So there might be two reasons why you cannot move things. First, if there is a posting on it, and second is if you haven't expanded it and then try to move will not work, then expand it, please. So let's go back to your questions and get rid of my browser. Do you have sales order reservations? Not yet. This is something we will look at. Can you set the color mode by default based on MTO or MTS type rather than manual having to do it? Not now. This is definitively, we look at, let's phrase it this way. We are glad that we have the color mode. The color mode provides a lot of flexibility, and the color mode gives you a lot of options. So it could be used in the way I just explained to kind of differentiate make to order, make to stock. But it also can be used to differentiate between different customers, or you can use it to differentiate between certain type of material. So there are definitively a couple of different use cases, and right now we want to give full flexibility to the customers to make use of this, and then also learn what are the standard use cases. And if we learn about the standard use cases, then we can look at ways of either we automatically populate this color or give you some tools or some kind of open an API for that specific field so that you could populate it. But right now we kind of want to have full flexibility and kind of learn about the cases. So right now this is not possible that is set automatically, but this is definitely something we will look at. How do I make a reservation? What settings do I need in Business Central? Well, I showed you didn't I showed you how to make a reservation. So but I can definitively get back to you afterwards via email and explain this to you again. You don't need specific, I showed you, I ran through the settings earlier in this webinar, so maybe you watched the recording, but I will also point you to a blog post that we wrote to highlight this. Is there a chance to have an overlapping between production levels? I don't think if I 100% get the question. I know that Navision or Business Central has on the routing line level the center head quantity. This is something that we currently honestly ignore, so that we say, okay, if I whatever. If I produce 10 pieces and the first step is cutting and the second step is painting, then after the first 2 cuts, then the first 2 cutted parts can go to painting, and so that then there is this overlap happening. Business Central does this through the center head quantity. This brings some complexity, and also the way of how this is implemented is not 100% straightforward. So for the time being, we decided to kind of ignore this functionality and don't have an overlap, but I would expect that this is something we will look at maybe later this year. But right now, kind of having overlapping, say, operations in the way that one operation starts before the predecessor is finished. This is nothing that we have right now, and we may look at this later this year, but I'm not 100% sure if I got the question right. So Volker, if I didn't answer the question right, then let's have conversation afterwards again, or maybe you can send the email to me in English, in German. If I didn't get you right, then just send an email in German, please, that we can discuss afterwards also. And if I answered the question, then happy that a Swiss guy and a German guy speak English in a webinar. So I don't see any further question right now. So let me kindly thank you for joining me today, for challenging me, for listening to me, and if you have any question afterwards, please send me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn and send me a message there, Also, please, 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 if you have something that you want me to cover in one of the next webinars, then let me know, and I'm definitively happy to build content for you, because in the end, I'm not building the content for myself. You hopefully sense that this is big fun to me. So this is part of the real fun of my work, is to give these webinars. But I'm not doing this solely with the purpose of entertaining myself, but I'm really making this to provide valuable content to you guys. So if whenever there is something that you feel would be valuable to you guys, then let me know, and I'll try to do a webinar for this as well. And so with this, thanks a lot, and all fingers crossed, stay safe and healthy, and let us all contribute to a flattened curve. And with this, thanks and see you soon. Bye bye.